If you fully accepted your humanness, yes, you, whoever is watching here, you, how would your behavior change? So, welcome everyone. That will be our inquiry for today. Our quality that we're looking at this month is humility. So, welcome to our live event for the Path of a Magdalena program, March 2024. I have three others here today to discuss this quality of humility and this inquiry that I just mentioned. You fully accepted your humanness, how would your behavior change? So, anyone who has watched us before knows we have the lovely Lisa Guinan on with us, joining us from Ireland, the master of all Magdalena qualities, Lisa. And then also we have today Chris Kearns and Ann Buckley with us, two others to discuss, to talk about, to really, I don't even want to say think about, to be in this quality of humility as we explore it together. So I was sharing with the group briefly before we got on that I do. No one would say that humility is Kara Kampani's strong suit. Like nobody's thinking that. So this is really a quality for me of exploration, and it's learning, and what this actually means is shifting in my mind. So wherever you are with this quality, we invite you to join us and kind of and dive in and see what it would look like for you. So, and you want to start us off? What are your thoughts here?
Yes, I would. I'm delighted to be here. I'm glad you invited me, and it was very interesting. I'd say the day before you'd invited me, I was sitting down, I was watching TV, and this guy came on. His name was Anil Seth, and he was a neuroscientist. And I was very fascinated. He was talking about a particular picture on the screen, and it was a woman's dress, and it was gold and white to me. But the people I was sitting in the room with, it was black and white to them. And it was very interesting. He went on to speak about how our mind, our brains, like when we're absorbing the light, that we see colors in different ways. It's subjective. And then he went on to explain that about 50% of people would see the dress as gold and white, and the other 50% as black and white. And this was trending on the internet, I think, there a good few years ago. And he explained why that was, that the brain fills in little pieces, missing pieces, that 50% put in maybe a yellow hued light, and the other 50% would, their brain would put in a blue hued light. And it was just so fascinating to have that piece of science. And then he went on to say, how this can really give us the opportunity to cultivate humility. And my ears just popped up. I just thought, wow, that is so beautiful. And he was talking about how, that different people were seeing it in different ways. And the point, I think, on the internet was that people weren't able to accept another person's experience. They couldn't accept that they could see, not see it in the same way. And for myself, no matter how long I looked at the dress, I could not see it the way other people saw it. And it was just a beautiful opportunity for me to really look at humility. And as he was talking about it, we can bring this into the wider perspective of, being able to see each other as humans, that we have different perspectives on things. We have different ideas, different thoughts, and gives us that opportunity to see each other as humans and to have that quality of humility, like literally and metaphorically, to help us to communicate and actually socially be together in the world. I just thought that was beautiful. And it was a lovely way for me to understand that humility, that perspective of each person being human, and each of us respecting each other and allowing for that space that, okay, I can't see it like this, but I can accept that you see it like that. And it can bring me into that space of my heart and humility. I just wanted to share that. For me, that was super. It was wonderful. And to hear it as well on the television in my living room was wonderful. Yeah.
And I guess you were being primed for your big live event here, huh?
Must have been, yeah.
I wonder if anyone in the US can relate to that now. So, there's like a lot going on in politics, and we have a presidential election coming up. And I would say, and I think this is present in other countries too, but can you imagine for a moment what it would be like if you just accepted that this was another person's point of view? Not, you didn't even make it right or wrong, but just accepted that that was the case.
Yeah, it's like you're saying, Anne, what I'm really realizing with humility is that it's really one of those qualities, like you said, that bring us all together. And you know what? Like every month when we come into a new quality, I find what happens for me is I come in and I put my intention on that quality, and then I open up. I open up to learn and to be taught and to receive information and to grow with this quality, to grow deeper into it. And I find as I do that, that I start to, these realizations come to me. And there's a slide that we've used before in our Magdalena programs. It's one that Mary used when we did the prayer for Magdalena. And it's a quote by C.E. Lewis. And it goes, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself less. Now, when I saw that slide, I didn't get it. I was like, what? But it's not how much you think about yourself, it's the way you think about yourself. And I just thought it was a very good slide. But actually, I just didn't understand that teaching. And, one of the first few mornings of the month, and I was sitting there, and in the morning, I love to do like a bit of meditation and I open up as well, like I become receptive. And I suddenly had this experience where I was being shown that when I look out at the world, say from behind my eyes, because I look out and everything is happening through my senses, that I can see things, I hear things, but it's as if I'm perched behind my two eyes looking out in the world. And when I relate to the world from that place, it's like I'm the center of my world. And there's this like video passing by every day of everything that's happening in the world around me. But I'm the center of this world. And also there's like a sense of separation. There's a centeredness and a separation. And then I just had this like dropping down into my heart. And I brought my awareness, I just followed it and brought my awareness down into the center of my heart. And it was like, find the eyes of your heart, like the same eyes looking out of the world from up here, to have those eyes down in my heart. So I just moved into that experience. And from there, I could feel I started to connect with all of the whole world, let's say, everything around me. And from here, when I look out at the world from here, I'm no longer separate. I'm connected with everything. And the other thing, I got shown like, it was like this film almost, you could say, was playing out. And I got shown that I could be just one tiny little blade of grass in a field. And it might seem so insignificant, one tiny blade of grass. But yet, what I was feeling, so it's the insignificance, but inside of that blade of grass was everything. And I kept hearing Ma's teachings, because I hear Ma saying this, but I'd never had that experience. And then I got that quote that when I'm living from here, I've an exaggerated sense. When I do something good, I think I'm great, a short period of time. And when I do something not good, I think I'm terrible for a short period of time. And I've been aware that for a while that these responses are very exaggerated. But when I come down into viewing and being with the world from my heart as one part of creation, then it's not so, the things I do right and the things I do wrong, they really don't matter so much anymore because it's such a tiny tiny piece of this big, big picture. And, you know, actually it was a relief for me because it was like, oh, you know, it's really not so important how I am in the world. It's not as important as what I thought it was, what it is when I live from up here. And that quote came to me, and I thought, this is it. It's the, it's not thinking less of yourself, but it's thinking of yourself less. It's going, that's that's the piece of humility that I didn't understand. But suddenly I got, you know, and I'm really grateful for that because I keep doing that now, dropping down into my heart and finding my senses from there. And how am I in the world then? So
Why, that's
exciting for me.
beautiful. That's so beautiful. Lisa, it just reminds me of another kind of a quote where we talk about less is more, you know, when we are just deepening and deepening into what seems like less, because we're not outside. What there is revealed, it seems for me, for myself, is that there's so much more always. It's like the talked about authenticity recently and vulnerability, and I saw them as to be truly who I am in those ways, I'd have to be rooted in humility. I'd have to be rooted in awareness of my open-mindedness and, in a sense, as you say, my insignificance, which is still of worth, even though it's small. And there's the whole flow of this for me is that just allowing the energy of life to flow through, not just by me, looking at it and watching it on TV and all that, which is so educational and so upsetting sometimes and all the rest, but to come deeper than that for me, to breathe in the presence that's in everything, you know, everything, and being part of that presence and just allowing that makes me be more true to myself as best I can. And then I can start to see other folks, not as so much other as that we're all trying to do the best we can. And we have different backgrounds, different educations, different food, different opportunities, different everything. And yet we're all human as best we can be. So that human quality, in preparing for this whole thing, I thought, well, first of all, I have to wrap my head about that I'm going to be on camera and just be there and just be myself and don't get crazy. And the other thing is the humanness gets a little, my humanness gets a little racked when it's put in a spotlight. And yet I think, wait a minute, why should that happen? We're all in the spotlight of love. We're all in that teaching of Mass saying that it would just allow that flow and relax and see what happens. Just allow that deepening of awareness, I say to myself, just allow that deepening of awareness that we're all in this, I like to call it the soup together. And we all have flavors and textures and all different kinds of presence, but it's all in this most delicious life that we're living. So I'm delighted to be here with you all, learning so much. Right, Kara?
Lovely, Chris.
Thank you, love.
What I heard a bit of in everyone's sharing is humility as a gateway. So as a gateway to vulnerability, as a gateway to acceptance, as a gateway to seeing the world through a different perspective. So there's a practice that our program director, Mary Seiss, offers. It's called tapping. And I think it's like a healing modality to shift energies and beliefs that no longer serve you or that you no longer wish to have in your life. And at the beginning of this practice, there's an affirmation statement. And it goes something like, even though I feel, and then you fill in the blank, shame, embarrassment, rage, anger, whatever you're feeling, I accept myself. And when I first started that tapping practice, that was very difficult for me because I did not want to accept that those things were in me or a part of me because I felt that they were wrong. And as I've kind of grown in that accepting, it makes such a big difference. It's not that that's what I choose, any of those qualities, but that is where I am at. So in that acceptance, so even though I feel whatever, I accept myself. Now I can really say that. Okay, cool. Like it's not a big deal. It doesn't have this huge power over me anymore. And I think that aspect is humility. Yeah, even though I feel angry, I accept myself. And I think for me, the link of acceptance was if I accepted something, that would be making it okay. And that's the hook that gets me with humility every time. And it's the same in politics, it's the same in my work, it's the same in the legal world. If I say I accept something, then that makes that action or that the area in which someone was harmed, it kind of rationalizes it in some way. And humility has really helped me with shifting that understanding. Just because I have accepted something in myself or accepted something in the world, it did not make whatever that was okay. But also, I don't need to make that right or wrong. That has always been my hook for arrogance or righteousness, which would have been my preferred way of being before. Um, and I really see what's possible through shifting into that state of humility and just accepting that something is this way or that something was this way. And I do not consider myself an expert on this journey. I certainly consider myself probably early on in this journey still, but that has really made a profound impact in the way that I show up both for myself and for others and for the world in seeing things that I don't really always appreciate.
That's beautiful, Cara. I'd like to just share as well as regards to I'm a mom to 4 boys and they're adults now. And I'm in the stage where I'm stepping back in my role and, well, doing my best to, but I'm still finding myself, running in trying to fix and, make things better. And, when I'm stepping out of judgment is basically what I'm doing. And in that space of stepping out of judgment, there's a humility in that as well. There's a space for allowing me to be like you said, to accept myself and accept those parts of me that I might be, disappointed in myself. I didn't do that, or I might be, as a mother that this didn't work out. But then what it does also is gives the adult children their opportunity to be their humanness and to make their mistakes, and for me to be able to hold that space, in the heart for that. And I'm just doing my best to practice that, because when I do step into that space, I can see the difference. When I allow, when my ego isn't in there, and when I allow, it allows the space for them to grow and the space for them to make their own mistakes, as hard as it is to be watching it. So it just has massive outpourings in our lives, in my life, to help to shift the energy and to change. And it's just such a wonderful opportunity, for me, doing this work here. It's just given me such opportunities in my life to put them into practice, and I can see the rewards.
You know what? It's making me think of Mary Sice. I know we all love Mary. But one of the things that I really do appreciate with Mary is the way when she's teaching in a group, the way she normalizes things that we normally don't like to speak about or feel ashamed about. And I find she's a great way and of doing that. And in that normalizing of things that we normally feel ashamed or embarrassed or we keep hidden, it really gives permission to everyone else to really open up, be okay with that part of our humanity. So I kind of hear you saying something a bit like that as well, and the way we can, when we are that for ourselves, the way others can find that inside of themselves as well, how we can support each other.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Carol.
oh, no, you please, Chris.
I'm just thinking that I had an injury this year and it brought me into a full stop. So when I was speaking earlier before about going within and just allowing myself to observe because I was pretty much unable to do much of anything else for a while, I learned an awful lot about releasing my expectations of myself. And that helped me to release expectations of other people. And it came around and around. It was a beautiful sort of spiral because it was a long-term healing. And the vulnerability that I experienced was new. But I'm grateful that I have a sense of humor, which I think is one of the other sterling observations about humility, is that I can take myself a little lightly. And maybe that sense of humor is one of the indications that we're doing okay on the humility journey, because after all, it's mostly hilarious. Once I get over myself, it's really pretty funny. So I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Such a good point.
And for anyone who's watching, let us know in the comments, like one sentence summary of your humility journey. What have you learned? What can we learn from you? What can we learn from each other? I recently had an experience where I was sharing something with someone that I wasn't particularly proud of myself about. And there was absolutely no judgment from the other person.
Hmm.
They weren't offering advice, they weren't telling me all these things, but there was no judgment. And that's when I got the power of accepting someone else as they were.
Hmm.
Lose nothing. And in that, then I had the space to not judge myself or to not feel a certain way about me because they were that example for me. So when I think about this quality, just accepting the humanness in myself and others, I get what's possible from it. It's possible to allow people to hold the space for people to accept and love themselves just as they are, mistakes and all. Um, I just wanted to share one thing. So one practice that I think might be a good one for this month. So I'm sharing all the family secrets here. So sorry, Mom, if you're watching. But my mom was in town a few months or last month visiting. And like, oh, Mom, I love your outfit. Like, I love that top. And she responds as she usually would, which is like, oh, I got this at 40% off at blah, blah, blah. Like, like I'm always hearing about the percentage sale that she got the top or the shoes. And what I was thinking in that is like, what if we just accepted compliments? Because I think that's another side of like the humility coin, like the false humility. What if we were just like, oh, thanks, accepted that? So that's something that I'm going to be practicing this month, along with other things related to humility that come to me. So for our Lisa, our Chris, and our Anne, anything else you all want to share before we complete for the day?
I'd like to say thanks, Kara. This has been wonderful.
Oh,
Thanks, all of us. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love humility. I just love the way it can bring you straight into the heart and out of the mind. And once the mind stops, once my mind stops and I go to my heart, it's just everything just calms and I can see clearly.
I find it such a rooting place to be. It's such a rooted, centered place to be, to keep moving into that energy of humility.
And the meditation, I did listen to it just before I came on because, anyway, that's another story, but it was absolutely beautiful. It's so worth having a listen to. Rachel's meditation on humility. Beautiful.
Yeah, and I suppose just the last thing that's coming to me is how when we're doing the Magdalena healing program, And we speak about it there, how the most important quality of a healer is humility. You know, we speak about the ego traps you fall into as a healer, and that humility is the thing that keeps us in the right place.
Well, thank you to everyone for joining us today. Same time, same place next month, second Friday. I'm not going to say the times because there's too many time zones to count, but whatever time it is now, minus 26 minutes. So it's great to be with you all. Continue this journey with us, and we'll see you again soon.